Updates about the theory of ethics. I'm really happy with how the ethics theory is developing. I definitely think that this sort of optimal relationship perspective where you balance your positive and negative interactions is the right way to approach this. I think that you have a relationship with society, and I think specifically because of the way I was approaching this before, I was thinking about how do you approach talk to an individual, and I was using the crowd surfing versus mind sweeping thing to explain that. I think that is still true. But I think it's also true for if you want to address groups, thinking a lot about how do you address people on the street. And then also, once you have the ability to do that, because you can balance your positive interactions. By the way, I think so. Definitely, like the using relative ethics, I think is generally speaking the way that you have a negative interaction with society. If you want to talk to a group of people on the street, the way that you do that is by using your relative ethics. And usually the manifestation would be you would either interrupt them, or I think people say that you sound more confident when you use statements or commands. And I think that is true because it's a negative interaction. And when you are not afraid to have negative interactions with people, you sound more confident because you're not willing to balance your positive. You're not afraid to balance your positive and negative interactions. So it's usually you do statements or commands when you talk to a group of people, and you want to do it as your first interaction, and that allows them to relax a little bit, which is counterintuitive. But it's you do a negative interaction followed up by positive interactions, and so you already started with a good ratio. And also, I think I've been theorizing that also another way of having a negative interaction with people might be and also a natural way of having a negative interaction is to call attention to yourself. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about this. I've also been thinking about how you need to balance positive and negative interactions with groups. So if you go out with your friends versus if you go out alone, and you also have, I think, a relationship and a dynamic with groups of people, not just individuals. And so if you go out with your friends, you probably would want to balance your positive and negative interactions with your friends by talking. The negative interaction might be talking with other people, not your friends. And the positive would be talking with your friends, obviously. I don't know, just like I think it's kind of verbose. It feels verbose to lay all this out, but also I think it's also important to define it. I'll be working on thinking about better ways to describe it as I go. I've also been thinking, I definitely have a feeling that these ethics issues, the absolute and relative ethics, are also a big part of how you balance your relationship with, I'm not sure what it is yet, but it's just like your relationship with your career. And it feels to me like there is some balance between your career and the rest of your life. And it's in some dynamic. I'm not sure what it is. You could say greater society, maybe the government, maybe civilization. I'm not sure. But thinking a lot about that and trying to figure that out. I think most people automatically have motivation to work on their career because they have to pay to live. And as soon as you no longer need to pay to live, if you are independently wealthy, or I don't know, like me, you live in a camper van and you just need to work so little that it ceases to become a primary focus of your life, then I think you still do need to have a career, but the reason to have a career becomes different. And like obviously, I think most people in society are working to live, so they don't have to worry about this dynamic. But it's been a primary sort of point of tension for me because I used to have a very dysfunctional relationship with ethics, and the desire to help people often would cripple my ability to think clearly about my career because I wasn't sure how you help people but also do capitalistic things. I'm still working on that. I haven't figured it out yet, but that's where I'm at.